Hello and welcome to Oh the Horror. I'm Fedora, and continuing our trend of the bad Nightmare on Elm Street sequels leads us to this. Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Dream Child. So, let's dig right in.
Alright, so as the movie opens up, we got some quite nice crayon writing for the opening credits. I quite like that. And, whoa!
Whoa, 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 whoa! Should I come back?
So the ones getting all jiggy with it were Alice and Mr. Jock, who, if you watched my last review, you would know that they were the only survivors of the fourth movie. Honestly, debauchery in a horror movie. I thought I'd never see the day. We zoom in for the obligatory nude shot before something starts happening with the pipes.
Ew. That's disgusting. There's a toilet, like, right over there.
Yeah, I wouldn't stick my hand down. Okay, we'll go ahead. So after finding out that she's obviously dreaming in a near drowning attempt, Alice is thrown into not Freddy's house. This is someplace new.
Oh, she's at New Line Cinema.
No, where she really is the old mental institution where Freddy was actually born. See, Alice is now in the persona of Amanda Kruger, Freddy's mother, who, as the story says, was locked in the asylum over the holidays, where all 100 of the most nutcasiest maniacs you've ever known raped her for I don't know how long, before she fell pregnant and finally gave birth to Freddy. Luckily, Alice wakes up before anything really bad happens. So after a little jump scare from what I can only assume is Freddy's birth father, Alice is on her way to her high school graduation, where she meets up with her friends who are even more unconvincing than last time.
Now, I can forgive the horrendous acting. But one thing that I can never forgive is this parent.
Greta, that's not what a cover girl puts in her body.
Hey, beautiful.
Oh, Jesus, don't do that.
Sorry. I got a present for you.
Guess where it is?
Nah, he just got him a couple of tickets to Paris. So, that coupled with Alice's dad showing up at the ceremony and some great photo moments, Alice is feeling pretty good about herself. So, on her way to work, she feels like nothing can go wrong, until...
She fell asleep again? When did she have the chance? She literally went from school to the park. There was no gap in between. There was no chance for her to fall asleep.
Right. So, in the dream, Alice follows a nun back to the mental institution, which I can only assume has the same architect as Dracula's castle, and starts looking around the halls a little bit. She follows the world's creepiest carriage into an operating room where she finds Amanda Kruger, and she also discovers the true means of Freddy's constant resurrections. Apparently, he conjures up an illusion of the mental institution in which he was born, he impregnates the ghost of his mother with himself, and gets himself born into the dream world.
Well, still a better love story than Twilight.
So Alice follows the Freddy baby, which looks a bit more like Dobby on some serious crack, into the church where she fought him at the end of the last movie. Unfortunately, the little tyke finds Freddy's old clothes, tries them on to see if they fit, and then...
It's a boy!
Oh my god, what have they done to him?
That makeup looks horrendous. He looks like Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie.
Welcome to my nightmare!
So before Freddy can finish Alice, Amanda Kruger's ghost shows up and shoos him away. She then tells Alice that in order to defeat Freddy this time, Amanda's earthly prison must be broken. And with that knowledge, Alice escapes the dream. Turns out, Alice spent a little too long sleeping this time, and she's late to meet up with Mr. Jock and her friends for a pool party, where, unfortunately, the profiles are just shoved in our face.
And I don't want to spend too much time going through it, so I'll just summarise. Cover girl, comic geek, committed diver, who's also a skeptic. And an annoying one.
Dan.
Dan? Who's Dan? Oh.
Dan, it was Kruger.
What?
It happened while I was awake. Do you understand what I'm saying? Jesus, Dan, I'm scared.
Alright, stay right there. I'm on my way.
Okay, I will. Just hurry, okay?
Okay.
Whoa, hold on. She was awake that whole time? So what? Was the mental institution really there? Was Freddy really there? Was Amanda Kruger really there? Or was there another situation where it was all just in her head, and she was the only one that could see it? And if that was the case, what must that have looked like?
Catch it! Get that little Muppets reject! Don't let it get away! I must find the earthly prison!
So, Mr. Jock jumps into his truck and rushes over to the diner to meet up with Alice. Unfortunately, despite seeming wide awake a second ago, he falls asleep while driving, and this in turn summons Freddy. Kruger takes him for a pleasant little joyride before gently dropping him back off at the pool.
Oh, so crashing into a tree does this to him? Yet smashing through a windscreen and through another window, he just gets up and brushes it off.
But it's alright, as it turns out he's still dreaming, which is made painfully obvious with this next ridiculous scene.
This boy feels the need for speed. Fast lane! Better not dream and drive!
If I pull that off, will you die?
It would be extremely painful
You're a big guy.
for you.
Gotham's reckoning will have to wait a little while, as Mr. Jock wakes up just in time to see himself slamming headfirst into the front of a truck.
Hylas! Wanna make babies?
After passing out, Alice wakes up to find herself in hospital with Diver and her dad.
Don't worry, young lady. You're gonna be fine.
What do you mean? What's he talking about? What's wrong with me? You're just a little pregnant.
Yeah, but it's just one of those little cases of pregnancy. Cup of tea, be right as rain.
Unable to sleep, Alice gets a little visitor that night.
Hi.
Hello.
What's your name?
Jacob.
Sad to say, this kid's the best actor in the film.
Jacob, wait, don't go.
Once released, Alice tries to convince Covergirl, Comic Geek and the Diver that Freddy exists and that he's the reason that Mr. Jock is dead. And of course, they think she's crazy. So we get a couple of scenes of Alice mourning Mr. Jock, and I'll admit, they are quite heartfelt. But then we go to a scene that's far more terrifying than anything Freddy can come up with. This is Covergirl's house.
It's true. People are always mistaking us for sisters.
Greta certainly has the perfect body for modeling.
My god, it looks like the Council of Doom!
Yes, what evil plan shall we come up with today? But it turns out this is... Hello, Robert Englund. Yes, it turns out this is just a dream. So Freddy appears and shows off his true skills as a trained connoisseur. He gives her a few spoonfuls of his finest cuisine, Unfortunately, it seems to be something the matter with it, and CoverGirl starts choking to death. Alice tries to help her. Awake, asleep, I don't even know anymore. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work, and CoverGirl dies on the dinner table. Desperate and confused, Alice gathers together Diver and Comic Book Geek to try and figure out how Freddy is getting into their dreams without using Alice's power as a doorway. Diver thinks they're a couple of psychos and backs out, which leaves Comic Book Geek to, just like the idiot he is, fall asleep.
No! Don't go in the house! There's a cafe over there! Quickly, go in there! Oh God, no! Go in the house! Go in the house!
Alice chases him into the dream and saves him from being sucked into the foul pits of hell. But then he catches the sight of his own blood and faints like a little girl.
Ah, forget that loser. We get to see the creepy kid again.
Jacob?
Oh, hello.
Yeah, I'm just hanging.
So after being told what anyone with a brain cell has already figured out, that Jacob is Alice's unborn son, she runs up the stairs and finds Comic Book Geek. He's still alive. Oh, that's good, I suppose. So after waking up, Alice heads to the hospital to find out exactly what Freddy is doing to her unborn baby. But before she can really find out, she's beamed up by the Starship Enterprise. Nah, I'm just kidding. What actually happens is she sees the inside of her womb, where Freddy is apparently pumping the souls of his victims into Jacob in order to turn him evil, so he can continue to live through his dreams forever. And while that's going on, he's using the sleeping unborn Jacob, who I can only assume has inherited the powers of Alice, to enter the dreams of her friends and continue his killing spree. This realization presents a very chilling question.
Have you thought about not having the baby? I mean, no baby's dreams.
Alice is determined to have the baby, and to keep him safe from Freddy or even Mr. Jock's parents, who are determined to take him from her. After making that abundantly clear, Alice and Comic Book Geek begin unraveling the mystery of Amanda Kruger, and how that finding her corpse and releasing her tormented soul might be the key of stopping Freddy. Alice falls asleep to try and find Amanda's spirit to get more information, and while she's doing that, Freddy pulls Diver into the dream world. And just to make it the trifecta, Comic Book Geek also falls asleep and gets pulled into his own little corner of the dream.
What happens next is so utterly lame that I just really don't want to talk about it that much. I'll summarize though. Freddy on a skateboard, and Freddy is a superhero.
After Comic Book Geek is torn to shreds, Alice sends Diver to the mental institution to look for Amanda's body. Meanwhile, she takes it from the dream world. She lures Freddy out in order to keep his attention on her, where she forces him into the asylum's holding area, where apparently the inmates tear him to pieces.
Arms here, fresh, delicious arms, right off the oven. Come get your arms here. We got legs as well. We got some legs. Some legs over there, sir. Some legs for you. Yes.
But as we've seen before, Freddy can put up with a lot of crap. So he's seen here trying to convince Jacob to stay with him, but he doesn't fall for it and tries to get back to Alice. And what follows is one of the strangest chase scenes I've seen.
Come on! Come on! Come down, Jacob!
She's finally reunited with Jacob, where she discovers that Freddy has been inside her all along. So she yanks him out.
Now we can really get to know each other.
Alice is looking like she's in some serious trouble. That is until Diver manages to find Amanda Kruger, and in freeing her earthly soul, whatever, she was just behind a wall, she manages to get into the dream and tell Jacob to use the power that Freddy has given him against him. Doing this forces the souls of Alice's friends out of Freddy's body and turns him back into that little E.T. turd we saw at the beginning of the film. Amanda absorbs Freddy's soul back within her, and Alice does the same with Jacob.
Oof. Hey Alice, you wanna swap?
So we close out with Alice, her dad, and Diver looking down and smiling at a now-born Jacob. Obviously that whole thing about Mr. Jock's parents trying to take him off of her was just filler.
All seems well. Who is it? So that was Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Dream Child.
This movie is very give and take. In one stand, the overall plot is quite inventive. I mean, using Alice's unborn son's dreams? That's pretty clever. But then we have the story with Amanda Kruger, which has more holes in it than a bag of Swiss cheese. Lisa Wilcox's performance as Alice is vastly improved. Yet Freddy's looks and dialogue are far worse. And while the visuals are pretty good, they seem far more half-assed than in the last movie, no doubt due to the much smaller budget.
All in all, if it was left in better hands, it could have been something quite good. Instead it falls belly first into the dank, shadowy pits of mediocrity. Anyway, that was all we had time for tonight's show, and that's the end of the series, I'm afraid, because there's nothing that could possibly follow this. It's been nice that people have watched the show, and there's absolutely nothing else to talk about. So thank you.
Getting jiggy with it. Getting jiggy with it. Getting jiggy with it. What? You on the ball with your kid? Watch your step, you might fall trying to